A couple of months ago, I was inside of a Family Dollar, and this was the time when we were scrambling to find essential items. There was a shortage of toilet paper and a shortage of paper towel. There was a shortage of hand sanitizing wipes. There was a widespread shortage of things that we deemed to be essential. And I remember being inside of Family Dollar this one particular day and watching this young man who was attempting to appease the shoppers in the store that day. He would go to the stock room and come back with a box and open it. And before he could get things placed properly on the shelves, they were taken away. And for the time that I was in the store, I watched him retrieve box after box after box. And I watched as people scampered to get the items. There was a classification of individuals like this young man who at the height of our pandemic, we deemed essential workers. You know, it was more than just doctors and nurses and pharmacists, people who worked at places like Family Dollar, people who worked in grocery stores, people who still stood in the drive-through taking your order with the mask on so that you could get the food to take home to your family. It was people who drove the bus, and it was first responders, people who we deemed essential. And it wasn't just the question of whether or not these individuals were putting their lives on the line to serve us. It was also a question of whether or not they were mentally tough enough to continue to serve at their best when we were often at our worst. We were asking people to be at their best while we fought in the store over essential items. We were asking people to be at their best when we had so many questions in the hospital. We were asking people to be at their best when we were fighting over mask placement while riding the bus or the train. We were asking for these workers to be at their best when often we walked around at our worst. But what if it was more than just doctors and nurses and pharmacists? What if it was more than just the people who worked at grocery stores and at dollar stores? What if it was more than the people who worked at fast food restaurants? What if all leaders viewed themselves as essential workers? Understand, we're still in the middle of crazy times. We're staring a second wave in the face. There's unemployment that's through the roof. Businesses have closed, and there are so many questions, and people are trying to figure out what to do. And no matter who wins the election, there are going to be some pressures of life that we're all going to have to deal with. So, what if you as a leader started to view yourself as an essential worker? Especially if you're in a place where your business has been going well, where your company has not faltered, where your market share has grown, where your bonuses are still intact. What if every leader saw themselves as an essential worker? Because you have to understand that the times we're living in are uncertain, and we still need leaders to provide vision, because vision is essential. And with all the pressures of life, even if you're working at a company where things are going well, there are people who work for you that are worried about sick loved ones. They're worried about family members who live in areas of our country where the tension continues to flare. They're worried about family members who are missing out on working. They're worried about what to do with their children who are all zoomed out. And sometimes they just need their leader not to offer a solution, but to listen, because listening is essential. And there are times when so many of us want to throw up our hands and be so frustrated and walk away, and we need a voice of reason to point us back in the right direction. Because a voice of reason is essential. There are times when people feel like all the effort is not worth it at all, and they need a message of hope, because a message of hope is essential. What if all leaders started to view themselves as essential workers? And what if all leaders made the commitment to move forward with their best, even when they were around people who were moving at their worst? I watched that young man in Family Dollar that day, and you saw the frustration on his face. You saw the fatigue in his eyes. You saw the tension in his posture. And in spite of all those things, he still kept opening boxes. He still kept placing items on the shelves. He still kept answering questions. He still supported people who were looking for the essentials. Because answering questions and supporting people and helping people get from one place to another and pointing people in the direction of the things that they need, all of those things are what great leaders do. Because all of those things are essential.